We're going to look at the Mishnah now on Pei Zayin Amud Beis. It's about 6 lines up from the bottom, and that's the introduction to Pei Ches. Now we're talking about Hafaras Habal Benidrei Ishto, in situations where he heard about the neder, but he was missing a yediyah. He was missing some piece of information. Yodea initiation Nedarim. I'm fully aware of the fact that my wife took a neder, and that neder is binding. Aval eni yodea sheyesh mafirim. Nobody ever taught me that I have, as a husband, the authority to be mefer my wife's neder. Yofer. What's the chiddush here of the Mishnah? Normally, from the time he hears the neder, we only give him rights and abilities to be mefer the neder until the nighttime, or maximum 24 hours, according to one opinion. That's called Yom Shamo. Here, we're not going to consider it Yom Shamo. And why is that? Because he doesn't have a yediyah. He doesn't have a shmir. He's not aware of the fact that the Torah gave him the rights to be made for the neder. So until he finds out with the yediyah gemura that not only did his wife take a neder, but that also he has the authority to be made for the neder, until that, it's not called Yom Shamo. So Yom Shamo is not, by definition, or necessarily 24 hours. It could be that Yom Shamo is pushed off in certain cases if he only has a Miktsas Yediyah. And Miktsas Yediyah, Lo Shmei Yediyah. That's not enough information. I mean, again, he has a certain amount of information. He knows that his wife took a neder and that neder is going to be binding, but he's totally unaware of the fact that the Torah gave him the right to be mefer the neder. And basically he's saying, you know what, I was quiet, I was silent, I didn't negate, I wasn't mefer my wife's neder, but the reason why I did so is because I didn't even realize that I had that power. Now, what happens if he knows not only A, that his wife took a neder, and B, that he could be mefer the neder, but he doesn't realize that this particular neder that she took lends itself to hafara of the Baal. After all, the Torah limits the rights and the ability of the Baal to be mefer to certain specific types of nedarim. Call it inui nefesh, call it dvarim shebeino leveino. Not every neder fits into the control of hafara. Not every neder, according to the halacha, will lend itself to hafara. So Yodea Ani, he declares, I know not only that my wife took a neder, but sheyesh mefirin, that the Baal was granted by the Torah the power of hafara. Aval eni yodea shezeh neder. I don't know that this neder is classified as a neder which I, as a Baal, could be mefer. I wasn't aware of the fact that this neder is categorized and defined as inui nefesh, or dvarim shebeino leveina. So the reason why I was quiet on Yom Shama when I heard about the neder is because it didn't occur to me that I could be made for this neder. So I'm going to skip Rabbi Meir for a second just to jumpstart with the Chachamim that make a lot of sense. Chachamim say that what difference it make whether he doesn't know that he has the rights to be made for in general, or he doesn't know that he has the rights to be made for this specific neder. In both cases, he has what you call a miktsas yediyah. He doesn't have full-fledged knowledge. And therefore, that's not called Yom Shama. Yom Shama means that his silence on the day that he heard about the neder of his wife was due to the fact that he wanted to be Makayim the neder. But in this case, say the Chachamim, he didn't want to be making the neder. He heard about the neder, not realizing that he has the authority to be made for the neder, even though he knows that his wife took the neder, and he heard about that, even though he knows that the Baal in general has hafara rights to his wife's neder, he knows about that, but he's missing a very critical piece of the puzzle, namely that this particular neder that his wife took fits under the category of Inu Nefesh and gives him the rights to be mefer. So therefore the Chacham argue if he's not up on that, then he's missing a critical part of the puzzle. He doesn't have a full-fledged Yediyah, and therefore it's not considered Yom Shama. However, let's go back now to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir Omer Lo Yefer. Rabbi Meir says that if he knows that his wife took a neder, he knows that he has the power and the authority to be made for his wife's Nedarim. That miktas, although it's not a complete Yediyah, but it's enough of a Yediyah to make it considered Yom Shama. And therefore he cannot be made for the neder after Yom Shama. He's not aware of the fact that this neder is in fact an Inu Nefesh neder. And therefore, if he's not aware of that, that's not called Yom Shama. Yom Shama means he has a Yediyah Gemura. I'm sorry, one second, I'm sorry. I messed up. I jumped again to the Chacham. Rabbi Meir holds that he has enough of a Yediyah to qualify as Yom Shama. And therefore, Lo Yefer, the Baal cannot be Mefer when he finds out that this neder is a neder shel Inui Nefesh, which he finds out after, subsequent to Yom Shama. So Rabbi Meir holds that if he has, let me call it for purposes of formulating the halach, if he has 2/3 of a Yediyah, we could check off A, that he knows about his wife's neder, and B, that he knows that the Baal could be made for Nidrei Ishto, then those 2 Yediyos are sufficient to make this into Yom Shama and limit and restrict his ability to be made for the neder to this particular day. Whereas the Chacham are willing to say, well, he doesn't have a Yediyah Gemura, he's still missing a piece of Yediyah, and he doesn't know that he has the rights to be made for this neder, and it's Inui Nefesh, so therefore it's not considered Yom Shama. So as the Chachamim will argue that you need absolute Yediyah, A, B, and C, in order to constitute Yom Shama, Rabbi Meir from his part will say, no, it's enough that he has the basics, so to speak. He passed the first course in basic mathematics and the advanced course of mathematics. He didn't circle around third base into home plate because he was missing that Yediyah about this neder, but he has enough of a Yediyah to qualify as Yom Shama. However, in order to springboard into the sugya, we're going to emphasize the Reisha, which is the case where he doesn't know that he has the power to be made for his wife's Nedarim. He's not aware of that. The Mishnah Stama, without mentioning names, which we assume means that this was unanimously accepted, says Yafer, that he can be made for after Yom Shama. Meaning that Mikzas Yediyah, in this case, the fact that he knew that his wife took a neder, Lo Shmei Yediyah. And therefore it's not considered Yom Shama, and we give him an extension on the time in which he can be made for the neder. And now the Gemara is going to ask a kasha and posit a stira between the Reish of our Mishnah, where Rabbi Meir is on board because he doesn't disagree and it's a stama, and the statement of Rabbi Meir regarding a suma who killed someone b'shogeg. In the case of a suma, he has what's called a mixas yediyah. All of shogeg for ira miklat is based on chisaron yediyah. I didn't know that there was a person here. Had I paid attention to the fact that there was a human being here, I would have been much more careful. Now, what about the case of a suma? Can we anticipate, can we expect that a suma would be aware of the fact that there's another human being here? And Rabbi Meir is going to take a position here that yes, the suma is aware of the presence of another human being. Maybe he hears sounds, or maybe he feels heat waves. I don't know enough about this science. Do you know by any chance, Ira? How does a suma know that there's a person close to?
Sense that. I think they can sense it.
Is it like
their senses are very fine tuned. So I think
it's like a sixth sense that they have.
Yeah. I think their senses
like they say about dogs, that dogs can hear things from a distance that human beings can.
Yeah.
Maybe this is how the suma compensates. The body,
right?
Or the psyche.
Yeah, for sure.
So Rabbi Meir is saying that even though the suma doesn't have a full idea, he doesn't know exactly where this human being is. He senses that there's a human being somewhere in his vicinity, but mixas yediyah shmei yediyah. That's enough for yediyah, such that if the suma kills this person b'shogeg, he will go into golus. Now, in the reish of our Mishnah, where it says yefer, we're holding now that mixas yediyah lav shmei yediyah. It's not yediyah and yom shamo, because he doesn't know that a Baal has the right to be made for Nedarim. And he's missing that yediyah. And therefore, it's not Yom Shama. So Raminu, the Gemara asks the following stira. First, we have to see a machlokas tanoim, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir, as to whether or not a suma is chayev golus. And this is a sugya Masechet Makis on Daf Tesam and Beis. And first we'll see the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda that a suma is potter from golus. Below Ra'os, the Torah says in Bamidbar Lamed Hey, in the parsha of Rotzeach B'Shogeg, it says that Hishlich Olav, etc., Klieven, below Ra'os. Says Rabbi Yehuda, below Ra'os means that he had the capacity to see, but he didn't see. He didn't notice the other person. But it's because he didn't see, but he could have seen. Pratlis Suma, to the exception of Suma, who, according to Rabbi Yehuda, because this is all Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, he can't see it all. The fact that he can sense someone because of the vibes or whatever it is, that's not called re'iyah.
Right.
And therefore, the suma is potter from golus because we need someone who could see but didn't see. And he couldn't have seen. But Rabbi Meir disagrees. Omer, and he states, L'rabos es asuma. Now, the word L'rabos here, we're going to have to wait a little time until we figure out what L'rabos means. Somehow, Rabbi Meir sees in these words below Ra'os that the Torah is including and being marbe a suma. But that's going to be based on another pasuk, which the Gemara is going to quote here on Daf Peiches. And that's a pasuk called Ya'ar. Okay, we'll get to that soon. So let's see if we can now formulate the Gemara's kasha. What is the stira reminu between our Mishnah of Hafaras Nedarim and Rabbi Meir's opinion as far as a suma that he's potter from Golus? I'm sorry. As far as Rabbi Meir's, Rabbi Meir's shita that he's chayav Golus. Rabbi Meir's shita that he's chayav Golus, the Gemara understands is predicated on the principle that mixas yediyah shmei yediyah. Rabbi Meir says that the suma has enough of a yediyah that it's considered yediyah, and therefore he's chayav Golus. But yet, in the Reish of our Mishnah, which is formulated b'stama anonymously, the meaning of which is that everybody agrees it's unanimously accepted, you cannot consider the idea of the neder of his wife as a idea if he doesn't know and he's not aware of the koach hafara that he has. And therefore, if it's not a yediyah and mixas yediyah lo shmei yediyah, therefore it's not considered Yom Shamo, and we postpone Yom Shamo until he finds out, this Baal, that he has the capacity to be made for his wife's nedarim. Until that point, it's not called Yom Shamo, because mixas yediyah lav shmei yediyah. In Golus, Rabbi Meir holds that mixas yediyah shmei yediyah, it does qualify as yediyah to be mechayev Golus, and that, hence a suma, according to Rabbi Meir, who has mixas yediyah, it's as if he had a complete yediyah, and therefore he's chayev Golus. But yet in our Mishnah, Rabbi Meir is agreeing that he doesn't have enough of a yediyah, and mixas yediyah lav shmei yediyah. So in the case where he doesn't realize that he has the power of being made for Nedarim, the Yom Shamo is postponed until the very day that he finds out, he discovers that he has been granted as a Baal the rights to be made for his wife's Nedarim. And that means that mixas yediyah lav shmei yediyah, against Rabbi Meir in Suma, where Rabbi Meir says the Suma is chayav Golus when he kills b'shogeg, because he has a mixas yediyah. So what will it be, Rabbi Meir? Pray tell. Is it mixas yediyah shmei yediyah, as we saw your ruling in Suma and Golus, or is it mixas yediyah lav shmei yediyah, as we saw in your agreement with the Chachamim that we postpone Yom Shamo until he gets the yediyah that he has the right to be made for his wife's Nedarim. Right. And now we're up to Amar Rav. Amar Rav, a hacham in Yana Dekra, a hacham in Yana Dekra. If we're operating purely in a world of svara without a kra, and we're logically trying to analyze what's the status of mixas yediyah, then Einochinami, we can come up with a conclusion that mixas yediyah is shmei yediyah. We might come up with that conclusion. But the problem is that we're dealing here with psukim. For example, we see here in the case of Suma and Golus that we're going to dash in the psukim, and Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir are going to argue about how to interpret the psukim. That cannot be compared to the issue of Hafaras Nedarim, where we don't consider it Yom Shamo, because logically, what does it mean Yom Shamo? He just heard about the neder, but he has no clue that he can be made for the neder. His shtika is in no way indicative that he is approved of the neder. Right. He just simply doesn't know, and he doesn't realize that he can be made for the neder. Right. Don't compare that to the issue of Suma, which according to Rava is based on Minyani Dekra. And the Ran says that we have to put a line through the words Hacha Minyani Dekra. Cross that out. There should be only one Hacha Minyani Dekra, because the entire issue of Suma revolves around how to interpret the Psukim, and that's called Minyani Dekra. In the case of Nedarim, we're not dealing with Minyani Dekra at all. So you have to scratch out those words, V'hacha, with the Vav HaMachaber. It's not a separate Minyani Dekra, but rather it's Svara. The question is it logical to assume that his Shtika B'Yom Shomo is an acceptance of the Neder when he didn't even know that he has the authority granted by the Torah to be made for the Neder? So that's Svara. So what's in Yoni Dekra with regard to Rotzeach B'Shogeg? So the Gemara says the following. Rabbi Yehuda's Savar, Rabbi Yehuda is going to hold that a Suma is Chayav Golos. Why? The Gabi Rotzeach Ksiv, Vasher Yovo Esreu Biyah. And apparently this is in Parsha Shoftim, in Sefer Dvarim. Kol Dvar Dibar Me'al Layel. Me'al Liyar. Anyone who can enter into the Yar, in other words, the word Yar, a forest, in the Torah, in the 19th chapter of Dvarim, is an extra word. Why is the Torah talking about a Yar? I mean, there could be a 1,001 scenarios in which Nebuch Ruvain killed Shimon b'Shogeg, but why Yavo El Re'eu B'Yar? And the answer is, says Rabbi Yehuda, the word Yar is a ribui that includes anyone who can enter into the Yar. The Suma Nami Bar Me'al Yarhu. Suma likewise can enter into the Yar. Now Rabbi Yehuda asks himself the following question. V'i Amrit, you'll argue with me because it says below Ra'os. And this is exactly what Rabbi Yehuda's agenda is. He somehow wants to neutralize and disqualify the Yalfusa from Yar. How is he going to accomplish that goal? How is Rabbi Yehuda going to derive that a Suma is not included in the parsha of the Chiyuv Golus of Rotzeach B'Shogeg when the pasuk says Yar? And the answer is below Ra'os. That although from the perspective of Dvarim Yutes, of Yar, it sounds like a Suma would be included in the Chiyuv Golus, but now we rewind to the Parsha of Golus in Bamidbar Lamed Hey, and there the Torah says below Ra'os. So you're going to tell me that below Ra'os is coming L'Rabos as a Suma. The Suma also is aware of the fact that there's someone else there. He senses it. So how do we learn below ra'os? Shall we say below ra'os is coming to tell me that you need someone who could see but didn't see, to the exclusion of suma? Or should we say below ra'os includes a suma because he also has a kind of re'iyah insofar as he's aware of the presence of another human being in close proximity? So you're going to tell me that below ra'os is a ribui, and it's coming to include a suma, which we'll see is Rabbi Meir Shita. Says Rabbi Yehuda Nein, I don't have the luxury of interpreting below ra'os as a ribui because then the Torah is superfluous. It's repetitious. It's repeating what we already know from the word yar. No, below ra'os prat l'suma. Not the way you initially intuitively thought that below ra'os includes a suma because he also has a kind of a re'iyah. Then, if that be the case, then it's a ribui achar ribui. And therefore, ein ribui achar ribui el lamayit. And below ra'os is coming to exclude suma because he doesn't have any re'iyah. We thought maybe we could expand the definition of re'iyah and include suma, but then the ribui suma is repetitious because we already have yar. It must be that re'iyah means re'iyah mamish, physical ability to see through your eyes, to the exclusion of a suma. And this is called ein ribui achar ribui el lamayit. You have the ribui of yar, you have the ribui of below ra'os in the first interpretation of below ra'os, and ein ribui achar ribui ela lamayit. Rabbi Meir Sovar, ksiv. Let's go back to that parsha in Dvarim, Perek Yutes. And it says, Asher Yakes Reu Bivli Das. See, now the pasuk is not emphasizing Re'iyah, but rather Yediyah. So again, Rabbi Yehuda, just to summarize so we don't lose our way through this forest, he's of the opinion that you have a ribui achar ribui, and that's a mute. Rabbi Meir is going to say we have a mute liachar mute, and that's a ribui. Why is it a ribui achar ribui? I'm sorry. Again, Rabbi Yehuda holds ribui achar ribui is a mute. Rabbi Meir is going to say it's a mute achar mute, and therefore it's a ribui. Okay?
Yeah.
What's the mute achar mute? So he says, Kol debar meida. Meida means he who knows exactly how to aim his stone. You know, he's throwing a stone at someone. However, the suma labar meidahu, this pasuk of Biblidas is coming as a mute to exclude suma because he cannot shoot the stone and have it land in exactly the place that he wanted it to land. So we have a mute of suma. But now you're going to tell me below ra'os prat l'suma. I have a second mute for suma. to teach me his potter from Golos. And that's below Ra'os, because you need a Bar Re'iyah. And he, the Suma, is not a Bar Re'iyah. So then I'm going to ask you, but Bivli Das Nafkale. So you now have two ribuis. You have the ribui of below Ra'os. Sorry. You have two mutes. I keep making the same mistake over and over again. At least I'm consistent. You have a mute, achar a mute, because below Ra'os is a mute, to exclude someone who doesn't have Re'iyah. Below Das is also a mute because it excludes someone who doesn't have Das to aim and hit the target.
Right.
Ishmamino below Ra'os, Baal Rabos Sasuma. We have a principle called Ein Miyud Achar Miyud El Rabos. So again, to summarize, Rabbi Yehuda is operating with Ribui Achar Ribui, and that's a miyut. Rabbi Meir is operating with miyut achar miyut, and that's a ribui. But all this is meant to answer and reconcile Rabbi Meir with our contradiction to our Mishnah, and saying that we cannot compare the din of Hafaras Nedarim, which is a machlokas mitzad svara, as to whether mixas yediyah shmei yediyah or only yediyah shlema and gemura shmei yediyah, to the case of Suma, which is all based on how you juggle the psukim. And whenever we learn a din from the psukim, we don't have a right to compare that to another din, which is derived from svara. And whether or not the Baal could be made for Nedarim, if he's not aware of the fact that he has that koach, that's a milsa d'svara. That's a question of svara. And that cannot be compared. It's not analogous to the case of psukim in Suma and Golos. We're up to the Mishnah now in the middle of page Peiches. And we're talking about a relationship between a father-in-law and a son-in-law. That's always a sensitive issue.
Right.
And what happened is that the father-in-law took a neder, which he imposed on his son-in-law, that his son-in-law would not benefit at all from his father-in-law or from the properties and the possessions of his father-in-law. But now the father-in-law decides that he wants to give his possessions to his daughter, and we have a principle of kol masha konsa isha kona baila. If he will give his daughter possession over his properties, then automatically the Baal will acquire ownership over that property. And therefore, there's going to be a violation of the neder the moment that the father-in-law transfers his possessions over to his daughter. So is there a scenario in which the father-in-law, despite the neder, could somehow hand over, or shall we say, transfer ownership over his possessions to his daughter and exclude the Baal, so that there won't be a violation of the neder? Hamadir hanomi chasono. Chasono means your son-in-law. So the father-in-law, it's called the chosein in Hebrew, like Yisro's the chosein Moshe, right? He was madir chasono, his son-in-law, shalo yehena mimenu, that he won't have any benefit from. Who wrote zaloses lebito mos, and in this case, he wants to transfer mos from his bank account to his daughter's bank account. But the law is that yad ha'isha kiyad baila, and whatever goes into her bank account belongs to her husband, and he's aser b'hana. He's not allowed to get hana from his father-in-law. So the Mishnah says, Omer law, the father, the shver, could say to his daughter, Hare Mos ha'elu nesunim loch matana bilvad shelo yeh l'bayil reshus ben. He can transfer ownership over his mos to the daughter with a t'nai. And the t'nai is that her husband will not be zoche in the mos. They will remain in the reshus of his daughter. But, we have a problem here because that t'nai contradicts the Torah law, which is that whatever his daughter, the wife, acquires now belongs to the Baal. So he's got to add the following. Elamasha at noses v'nosenes befich. This matana will only be yours with regard to that which you will put into your mouth. In other words, if you take the money and you buy food with it, that's okay. That's the matana I'm giving you. Hamatana azos lo tehei shalach elo legabi mashe nosenes befiyah. Now the Baal cannot be zocher in these nechasim. They remain in the possession of the wife, of the daughter of the father, and they completely are excluded from the ownership of the husband. And this is based on a principle of Ein ha-labal zechia b'mizonos ishto. So the din of our Mishnah applies dafka in a case where he's giving her mos. She can do with these mos whatever she wants. Meaning, if she decides to buy mizonos, then the neder is circumvented. If, let's say, the father wanted to give mizonos to his daughter, then the Baal has no rights to those mizonos. Ein lebal zechia b'mizonos ishto. The Mishnah that requires that additional piece in which the Baal, who's the father, who's the Madir, the Chosein, has to add Mashat Noses V'Nosenes B'Fich, that's because he's giving her mos. If he was giving her a banquet, if he was supplying her with food, he doesn't have to add those words. The Baal is in any event excluded from the mizonos of his wife.
Right.
But since he said mos, therefore we have to make sure that we restrict this transfer of mos to the use of mizonos, so that we can exclude the husband. Now, let's add the following comment, which he has here on the base of a Gemara in Kiddushin Chav Gimel, that Rabbi Meir is of the opinion in that Gemara in Kiddushin, Ein le'isha yadu zechia below baila. A woman does not have a yad in dini momenos, in the context of marriage, to acquire personal ownership. And therefore, the father has to make this t'nai that he's giving her a gift in a way that excludes the Baal, because otherwise, ein le'isha yad uschia below baila. In other words, what the father is accomplishing here by saying, you, my daughter, my dear daughter, will not acquire ownership over these mohs except vis-a-vis that food that you'll put in your mouth. Rabbi Meir would agree that in such a case you can cut out the Baal. The woman is zoche in these mohs the moment that she converts them into mizonos, ad sheyavel lefiyah. And that means that the hakna that the father transfers over to his daughter is limited just to the mizonos, and that cuts out the Baal, because the Baal is not zocha masha b'fi ishto, the mizonos of ishto, as we said before. So where is this Gemara in Kiddushin? It's a sugya on daf chav beis amid beis that continues to chav gimel amid beis in Masechet Kiddushin, and there's a machlokes between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim about what's called Yitzias Eved Knani al Yedei Nesinas Kesef L'Rabba. The Chachamim are of the opinion that if money is given over to an Eved with a stipulation that we're cutting out the Adon and it belongs to the Eved and exclusively to the Eved, because the donor who gave this gift to the Eved stipulated with a condition that whatever he's giving to the Eved, it's on the condition that his master should not have any possession over what he's giving to the Eved. And the Chachamim say that in such a case, it's a valid nesina, a valid matana. And that's going to generate what's called Yitzias Eved Eved Knani L'chofesh, L'chofshi. Because now that the Eved receives this gift that cuts out his Adon, his Rav, he can now give this money to his Rav and achieve his own freedom. But Rabbi Meir disagrees. Rabbi Meir holds that Yad HaEved ki Yad Rabo, and there's no such thing as a kinyan to the Eved without his Rav taking over that kinyan. Any kesef that he gets, any kesef that the Eved receives belongs to his Rav, and therefore he cannot use that kesef and give it back to his Rav to be meshacher himself, because the kesef is owned by the Rav. Omar Rav, Lo Shanu. When does our Mishnah say that the Baal is cut out of these nechasim, which were given to his wife, meaning the daughter by his father-in-law, on that condition that she used the most for mizonos, Eladi Omar law? This will circumvent the neder only if he adds the words mashat noses v'nosenes b'fi. Then the Baal is not zocher b'nechasim. She's zocher in nechasim when she eats. Avalim Omar. If the father only said mashet tirtzi asi, kanolas yason Baal. If the father said, "Here, I'm giving you these mos, and do with them whatever you like," even though, again, the father had said when he gave this gift, Almanas she'ein lebalech reshus bahem, he stipulated that condition. But because he said to her, Mashet tirtzi asi, his t'nai of ein lebalech reshus bahem is completely bottle. And it's not effective in the case of, let's say, Almanas she'ein lebalech reshus bahem. And this is similar to Rabbi Meir. If you recall that we mentioned Rabbi Meir's sheet in Kedusha Chav Beis, that the Eved cannot be Zocha in anything without his Rav. So too, according to what Rav is saying in our Mishnah, there's no Zechia to a woman without her Baal. However, Shmuel Omer, the Mishnah reflects the sheet of Rabbi Meir. And therefore you have to add Elo Lamashat Noseis V'Nosenes Lefich. And if the father did not add that condition, then the T'nai is Batel, even though he said Almanas She'ein Lebalch Rishus B'hem, and therefore the Baal is Zocher and he's Nechasim. Where does Shmuel disagree with Rav? Shafilu im mashe tirtzi asi lo kani yason Baal. Shmuel holds like the shita of the Chachamim that an Eved has a yad to be kona without his Rav, as long as it was stipulated that this gift is going exclusively to the Eved, excluding the Rav, the Adon. And therefore, Shmuel says that here the father-in-law could say Almanas gives a gift to his daughter and say Almanas she'ein lebalech reshus bahem. He does not have to stipulate that the only mos that she will receive are the mos that she will bring to her mouth, to Mazonos. And even if he says to his daughter, Masha Tirtzi Asi, since he stipulated Almanasha Ein Lebalech Reshus Bahem, the Baal is not Kona. Exactly mirror imaging the sheet of the Chacham in Kedushin, that if someone gives a gift to the Eved and says, I want you to be Zochen to the exclusion of your Rav, that exact Kinyan will be Chal. And that's parallel to Almanasha Lo Yel Lebalech Reshus Bahem. But Rav holds like the sheet of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir holds that under all situations, Masha Kana Eved Kana Rabba. So even if somebody gives a gift to the Eved and he wants to cut out the Rav, he cannot do so. And therefore, if the father wants to give a gift to his daughter, like the case of the Eved, where Masha Kana Eved Kana Rabba, he does not have the ability to cut out the husband, because Masha Kana Isha Kana Baila, unless he stipulates Mashat no seis v'no senes b'fich. Mizonos, which the husband has no rights to. Maskif lo Rav Zera. Let's see what time it is. Okay, we have 5 more minutes maybe. Maskif lo Rabbi Zera. According to Rabbi Meir, Yad Isha Kiyad Baila. And it's not enough that he gives a gift, the father gives a gift to his daughter, and Shalo Yei L'Bailach Rishus B'hem. Says Rabbi Zera, Kiman Azla, here on the top of Peichesam and Beis, Hush Maita de Rav, that the father has to add the stipulation of Ella Mashat no Seis no Senes Befir, otherwise the Baal would be Zocher in the Nechasim. Rabbi Meir, the Omar, who says in Kiddushin, Yad Isha ki Yad Baila, and therefore it's only when the father says to his daughter, you will be Zocher these Nechasim at the time that you eat whatever you eat from these mows. Only in that case can we cut out the Baal. But if he didn't say that, then the Baal is Zocher immediately in the Nechasim. However, according to the Chachamim Shita, a woman has a yad to be Zocher without a Baal if it was just stipulated that this gift is being given to her and exclusively to her. And therefore, even if the father did not add the words Ela Masha At No Senes Befich, is nevertheless, according to the Chachamim Shita, the Isha could have a yad to be Zocher and cut out her Baal. So as soon as the father would say to his daughter, Ein lebalech rishus bahem, that would be enough to cut out the Baal. So we didn't get up to Rabbi Zera's Kasha. That's coming up around the bend here in Veraminu. Okay, then, so we'll stop here. And
Okay, sure.
where are you next week? Still down?
Same, yeah.
Okay, I don't know, you sound like, I mean, you should be having a great time there.
No, I'm doing work.
Oh, you're working?